I'm Sophia Luisa, and thank you to So Zoom In. Tonight we are going to be speaking with David Leikam. He is, how do I want to say this? David is an artist. He is a musical artist. He's not just a musician. He's so much more than that. He is a sonic architect. Yeah, this is very curious, and I'd like to learn more about that. So we are definitely going to be asking David, what exactly is a sonic architect? And all the wonderful things he's doing, which includes being an advocate for the arts. Now, what is exceptional about David is that he was born with cerebral palsy, and that has not stopped him in the least. And so I look forward to speaking with him and seeing what kind of great things he has on the horizon and how life has changed for him during this pandemic. Thank you so very much, David Leikam. Welcome to Sophia Luisa's So Zoom In. I'm so happy to have you. And I just want to say, I think you are awesome. I want to say that in big capital letters. I was listening to some of your music today with my daughter, and she said that music's really cool.
Oh, cool.
And,
Thank you.
and when I was looking at your website, you added Sonic Architect.
Yeah.
What exactly? Okay, that sounds cool. What exactly is a sonic architect?
So I sort of came up with it as a way to describe my style as sort of, because I've been classically trained for composition theory, but I also am a big practitioner of improvisational performance. So it's sort of my way of conveying the two of those styles mixed together, sort of artistic way of saying composer, performer.
I, I,
So, but it also adds an element of sort of spirituality.
I,
Yeah.
I would agree with that. I would definitely. It does have a very ethereal feel to it,
Yeah,
which is
definitely.
nice.
So I came up with that term about 3 or 4 years ago. So
I like it. Sonic
yeah,
architect. It sounds
thank you.
well. You are an artist with
Yeah.
music, and and
So,
so
so, so yeah, I've been an artist since I was a little boy, but I actually started in visual art. So I did oil painting and drawings when I was very little, and then I got into music performance and recording when I was sort of a mid teenager, 14, 15 years old.
how many different instruments do you play?
So I play, primarily I play electric bass, electric cello, piano, analog synthesizer, and those are my main instruments, but I also play percussion and hand drums. So,
Wow. So
yeah.
and you mix your own music. You put everything together.
So, so yeah, I also studied sound engineering at the Musicians Institute in Hollywood, California, sort of in the mid 1990s, where I got certified with honors there before I went to CalArts to study more classical composition and improvisational execution. So, yeah,
So which do you prefer? Do you prefer classical or do you like mixing it up like you
I
do?
prefer the mix.
The mix?
Because I think the classical training is a very good foundation, which sort of goes along with the architect part of my term. So it's good to have a good foundation. But I actually started recording music in an improvisational sort of art collective here in the San Francisco Bay Area called Friday Night Music. which started back in 1979, but I joined in 1987 through my dad, Bill Leikam, who's a writer and poet, and he's also a high school teacher retired. So he sort of got me into he said one night, come along with me and record some improv music with this group writing music. So I went along to Dragon Studios in Redwood City, and basically what we would do is we would all get together at the beginning of the night. We would have like a whiteboard set up with different blank tracks where people could sign up as producer. So when you were ready to produce your piece of improvisational music, you would get the performers together that you wanted on your cut or track, and then you would describe briefly what you wanted to them, and then we would go into the recording area studio and plug in and improvise the piece as best as we could, which also determines who you chose, and it also determined who you chose who was there that night.
Wow.
Because sometimes it would fluctuate who arrived. Because in the early days we did it every Friday night.
Wow.
So we did it every Friday night in a professional recording studio, and it was all live, direct to two-track improvisational music. So that's how I got started in music initially in the mid to late 1980s.
Wow.
And then when I went to college, I got more into the classical end of composition. So in a way, you could say I came in backwards because most people do the classical formal training on their instrument when they're little, and then they hopefully jump into the improv spheres, you could say.
Wow.
Later in life after they've done the classical performance. So basically, I did the improv first, so I got my feet wet with improv. As a teenager, jumped into classical composition and conductor training because I did some conducting study also while I was at CalArts. So I sort of mixed the classical composition with the improvisational on the spot composition, as I term it, because they're basically both compositional practices. It's just that the improvisational performance is basically that you're composing directly in the minute with the tools and vocabulary that you have already within you. And another way I describe it is that basically you are the note and you're playing yourself through God, and basically what you try and do is get out of the way of God coming through you, through the instrument, to the audience or the recording.
That is so beautiful. Now,
so that's sort of how I how I describe my artistic process, you could say.
Well, it sounds so beautiful. Now, you were performing live, right, before the pandemic hit.
Yeah.
So what has happened?
So basically, a brief story about that. So I had a gig or a performance scheduled for KZSU Stanford Radio literally 24 hours before the California lockdown happened. So basically my performance on the radio, which was going to be live worldwide because it's online.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, 24 hours before that was due to happen, I got a call and said the studio's locked down indefinitely. So that was my first sort of, this is not good. We're going into something serious. But
Right.
and then after that, my other performances started either canceling or postponing their engagements for later
Mm-hmm.
dates or altogether canceled.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that was kind of traumatic because that's never happened to me before.
Right.
But, and especially since I do primarily improvisational music, it's a very in person engagement
Right.
because you get energy from the audience to play off of, and it incorporates within my compositional process
Mm-hmm.
who's there, what they're doing,
Right.
all goes into what comes out of my instrument, along with what God inputs. So,
Do you
yeah,
have you ever done any sessions with other musicians on stage where you all
yeah.
just kind of
So I have a couple bands also.
oh,
I'm also a band leader.
that's right.
So, so, so I have two primary groups at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
One's called Z-Bug, which I've been directing since 2006.
Mm-hmm.
So we recently had our 10th anniversary in 2016, and we were booked to play a festival last year,
Mm-hmm.
which has luckily been postponed to next year, but we're still on the bill. So we have that date coming up next year, which is good. But we're basically jazz improvisational trio and quartet.
Nice.
Depending on who's available, we
Mm-hmm.
have a trio formation and a quartet formation featuring Sheila Bosco on drums and percussion,
Mm-hmm.
and she also sometimes plays keyboards. I play electric cello, electric bass, Moog synthesizer, and other um, effects tools. Then we also have a saxophonist
Mm-hmm.
who also plays some electronics through his saxophone. And then we also have another, um, who the saxophonist's name is Patrick Kress from Oakland, California.
Mm-hmm.
And then the last bandmate is Timothy Orr, who plays drums and percussion also. So we basically have a double battery of drummers in our group.
Wow.
So it's very rhythmic and it really expresses the sonic architect
Yeah.
vibe of the improvisational moment.
So do you ever rehearse your improvisation or do you just like
So
get together and just jam or
so
is it
we
always
usually just, it goes back to Friday night music
mm,
and my training there, where you pick the right people to be in your group
right.
so you don't have to necessarily rehearse.
Mm,
Because I'm not necessarily adverse to rehearsing
mm,
per se, but it also saves time and money not to rehearse.
right.
And it also sort of lends to that element of trust who you're playing with.
Right.
And I trust them enough that they know what they're doing.
Mm,
They are the right notes for that group, and they know what's going on. That that I don't have to worry about that. I can worry about what I'm channeling through God and
Exactly.
knowing that my notes
Uh,
are the correct notes for that moment within the compositional
mm.
moment for the audience and for the other performers on stage.
Well, I think that's wonderful that you do that. How long are your sets usually? Do you go like about an hour or 2 hours?
So our sets vary depending on the booking,
Mm.
and we go from either 15 minutes to 2 hours.
Okay. So do you think you'll start playing again live
Yeah.
soon? Okay, good.
Yeah, I'm already getting some people contacting me to book some gigs later this year and into next year,
Oh,
which
that's
I'm
exciting.
very thankful for.
Well,
Uh,
definitely keep me posted. I want to make
yeah.
sure go see you live. I think it's fantastic. Now, what?
So just so my second group, to get back to your question on that, it's more of a traditional rock and roll group, and it's a trio with rock drums, percussion, with John Kilpert from Chicago and Matthew Davis, who I met at CalArts, where he was studying jazz bass. So he plays guitar, electric guitar, and electric bass, and I play electric cello and electric bass in that group. And it's more, we we have we have rehearsals
Mm.
pretty regularly, and it's more towards rock and roll, shoegaze, metal music.
Well, have you been recording during this lockdown in any way?
I haven't really because I've had to basically reestablish my home studio
Mm.
since since CalArts really. So I haven't, but I have a new idea for a studio project that
Mm.
I'm working on called Soft Coup,
Mm.
which is a solo studio project sort of along the lines of Brian Eno and Robert Fripp. So it's more ambient acoustic
Right.
electronic mix, and that's a solo studio project with featured guests here and there, but it's primarily a solo studio project
Mm.
developing this summer. So,
Well, that sounds fantastic.
yep.
Have you done any collaborations with dancers?
So when I was at CalArts, I did a lot of collaboration with dancers, and that was basically my informal minor while I was at CalArts with
Mm.
my major in music composition and improvisational performance with Wadada Smith, who was my mentor and main instructor while at CalArts, which I was there for my undergraduate and graduate degrees. So I have a
Mm.
master's degree in improvisational African American
Right.
music performance and composition. So that's basically sort of an
Mm.
advanced jazz compositional degree with sort of an African American
Mm.
seminar attachment to it.
Oh, that sounds very
Yeah,
exciting. Now,
yeah,
if people want to listen to your music,
yeah.
can you go to your website
So
or
yes, you can go to my website at myname.net, davidleikam.net.
okay. And,
And or you can also go to Bandcamp and search my name, where all my albums are released there, and I have about 16 albums.
that's fair. Well, you have a great beat, and it
Thank
sounds
you.
wonderful. I would love to hear it live.
Yeah.
I would.
Well, like I said, my personal feelings of art is that it's always best live because it's just you get all the elements.
Right.
With the lockdown last year and lots of people going online,
Mm.
I've tried it and it's good for some things and not so good for other things, especially because of they still need to get better at online audio latency.
Right.
So for styles and forms like improvisation
Mm.
with other people online through things, video conferencing platforms, it's a little bit more difficult because you have the latency issue. So
Right. Well, not only are you an artist with music, but you also are an advocate for the arts.
yes,
And you started Arts Earth, which is
yes.
Arts World. I mean, you have so many. For every state, there's Arts California, Arts Georgia, Arts New York. How did you come to
So
create this, and why?
so I had the idea for the vision for it the last semester I was at CalArts for my graduate degree in 2006,
Mm.
and so I started thinking about what am I going to do after college, like
Mhm.
everyone else hopefully does, and so I started thinking, okay, what can I do? So I took sort of the framework of CalArts, which incorporates all the main disciplines of dance, film, literature, music, theater, visual arts, and multimedia. So I took that sort of framework and applied it to quality promotional platforms.
Mhm.
So my idea was to be inclusive, basically.
Mhm.
And since I do a lot of different disciplines of art myself, I
Mhm.
was like, well, that's perfect to direct that also because it's also part of me um, sort of reflecting my arts
Mhm.
studying also. So, because I also dabble in some poetry and literature back in the day, so, and then I still do visual arts. I
Mhm.
do music primarily, that was my formal study degree. And then I've always been interested in dance as a minor at CalArts, so I studied the history of modern dance,
Mhm.
basic dance anatomy and training, collaborations and such. So, and then I also, while I was at CalArts, I also was in a couple programs for performance art
Mhm.
study. So that incorporated some multimedia. So basically, all that came together in
Mhm.
2006. So I was like, well, let's do this project I'm feeling and getting a vision for. So I called it Arts Earth because it's worldwide because I want to be inclusive.
Mhm.
And also part of that's also properly promoting the arts in possibly some areas of the world which are suppressive of the arts.
Right.
So it's sort of part of my, you could say, punk ethos
Right.
of like challenging different fronts that challenge the arts, but doing it constructively.
Now, do you use Facebook for your platform, or do you use?
So we have a main platform called artsearth.org, and
Okay.
that's the main platform. And we're using Facebook as sort of like a pseudo sandbox
Right.
for getting audience members to tune into our loop and to get on, basically to get into our community and see what we're doing, because that's where the audience is
Right.
these days, because Facebook is Facebook.
Right. Everyone's on
So,
Facebook.
everyone's on Facebook, and I have my own ideas of Facebook, but it's a good tool to use.
Right. Well,
So our main platform
mhm,
basically lists different arts events worldwide, and we have different sections covering dance, film, literature, music, theater, visual arts, and multimedia. So we so we encourage all different disciplines.
well, and
So,
it's free for people to
so
actually.
yes, it's free because we we it's free because we um, count on donations from the general public
Mm,
and also arts patrons
mm,
um, solely. So we don't charge the artists a fee. We
mm,
do appreciate donations whenever they feel they want to donate to us,
mm,
but we don't have an upfront charge because we feel that as an artist ourselves, we
mm,
know how hard it is to be an artist within today's society. So we're here to help promote them to get to the next level or levels
mm.
of their creative journey through life.
Now, I was talking with a friend of mine, and we were talking about how difficult it is to be an artist, and
Yeah.
she was saying, "Well, why do people want to be artists?" And when she
Mhm.
said that, it felt like an arrow to the heart, because art is so needed in all aspects.
So
So,
so so yeah. So I basically equate art with culture, and if we don't have a good art scene, then we won't have a good cultural scene community
right,
within our society, which is the first part of a civilized society,
right,
is a good culture. So if we don't have artists to foster that kind of society, then I think it will go in directions that we don't want our society to go in, which we already see within the last 10 years, especially with sort of more angst and ill will towards others.
well, the one thing about art is it brings everyone together, no matter
Yeah.
what the medium is. So,
Yes, even if you don't like the art, it inspires you to at least think of
mhm,
why I don't like the art, who I am to a certain extent, and what do you like. So
mhm.
yeah.
And
So any type of art I think is fosters good cultural will towards
right,
knowing yourself and others within society. So it goes back to my venture of Arts Earth
mhm,
and promoting the arts, especially in areas where the arts are suppressed
right,
and not necessarily fostered actively in different parts of the world, which vary
mhm,
drastically depending where you are. But we also make a point to promote the women artists also, especially because throughout history,
mhm,
women artists have been sort of sidelined to a great extent
right.
compared to male. artists in various disciplines. So, that's also sort of an informal but present aspect of arts also.
Do you feel that you've received any pushback from any part of the world with Arts Earth, or do you find a lot more support as you do
Well,
this?
we find more support because we're generally going into communities that support the arts.
Mm,
So we're supporting them sort of outside their state or country. So it's been pretty favorable. We've come across very few people that, for whatever reason, don't like arts. Also, personally, which I find very odd. But I think that's part of fostering the arts within your society and within your local community
mm.
to hopefully promote a better society and neighborhood within where you live. So,
Well, I think that's beautiful that you do that. Now, I have to ask, on your website, it starts off saying that you were born with cerebral palsy.
yeah.
Now, you
Oh,
have done remarkable. You live life with no excuses. I love that. Was that something you always had support from your parents, or what was it
so, so,
like?
so, so, yeah, I, I did learn it to a certain extent through my parents of being independent and not not letting things necessarily get you down. But of course, I'm human also,
Right.
so none of us are perfect. So,
Oh,
um,
yeah.
but yeah, but it also helps going through different trials throughout life because I was born with cerebral palsy, although relatively mild, which I'm very thankful for.
Mm,
So basically, it mild, it mildly affects the left side of my body, and
mm,
the right side of my body is not affected. So basically, with cerebral palsy, the palsy tends to affect either a side of your body vertically or horizontally,
mm,
or throughout your body. So you could express palsy within your both legs, your left side or right side, your top torso part of your body, or throughout your body. So for me, it's primarily the left side of the body.
so,
So, so, but it also, when I was born, the umbilical cord was also wrapped around my throat.
mm,
So I was born backwards with a purplish blue face from a lack of oxygen. But luckily, I was born at Stanford University Hospital, and whoever was there, they reacted quickly and basically saved my life.
oh, that's
So,
wonderful.
so from that genesis, it's sort of ingrained within me, sort of a fighting spirit to be tenacious. So,
and and to dive into music, to
yeah.
express yourself through music.
Yes, so that plays into also my vocal impairments. I think part of being a musician is to help supplement my speaking voice because with an instrument you can just turn up the amp or play louder or whatever you do to just put out your message a little bit louder. So,
Right. And as you said too, it's a way to connect with God.
yes.
Let God know you're the conduit of God to play this music, to you're co-creating with him to do that.
Yeah, yeah. So, and that goes into composition and improvisation
Mhm.
and being aware of who you are, who he is, and who your audience is. So those three elements also come into play when I'm presenting my art, especially live performance. So, and like I said, it's sort of a jazz saying also, where you basically learn it and then you forget it. Because when you forget it, it's within you already. So you don't have to consciously know it anymore. Because you already know it and you know him. So you don't have to worry about that. So you just worry about basically getting out of the way of him to have him present it the best way that you can present it through the instrument that you're playing with.
Do you always record your performances when you perform, when you start
Yes.
improvising? Okay. Oh, good. So you always have.
Probably 95, 99% of them.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's exciting. So do you ever find something that you want to play again, that you want to use and create
Well,
else?
so from my compositional foundation, I have the toolbox of classical composition and jazz composition sort of in my toolbox to work with, both consciously and subconsciously. It's in there
Right.
somewhere. So with those tools and vocabulary to play with, I can already present it within my voice.
Right.
It's sort of with any artist, they have their own voice. So based on my experiences throughout my life and my musical artistic training, I have my own voice. So it does come back around
Right.
in a certain extent, but I don't really play off of a page
Mhm.
when I don't have to.
Right. Would
So I do have favorite themes
uh,
and motives that pop up here and there when they're appropriate,
right.
but I don't necessarily play song form where it's the first chorus first and repeat. I
Right.
don't necessarily do that, but
Right.
I do have repeated aspects of my art that come up through my voice.
Oh, that's. Have you ever composed for a movie? Is that something that you've ever done?
I've done some composition for animation and dance.
Mm.
I haven't specifically done film yet, but it's kind of interesting you asked that because when I went into my undergraduate studies for classical composition, I had the idea that I would become a film composer.
Mm-hmm.
So, but then I sort of got disenchanted of the process because I saw that most film composers these days sort of compose by themselves or with assistants
Mm.
with keyboards and other electronic instruments,
Mm.
and they don't really uh, compose with like a full symphony or a chamber ensemble anymore for various reasons. So I sort of got disenchanted with being a film composer in the traditional sense.
Do you think those?
But I've always part of my voice has always been sort of instrumental,
Mm.
the sort of mood musical, sort of music that
Mm.
sort of envelops the emotions.
Right.
So which would be perfect for film scoring. But
Well,
I also, while I was at CalArts, I really got turned on through my studying with Wadato Will Smith for improvisational performance. So that's also part of what swayed me towards more the jazz improvisational fields of musical.
Now, what if someone wanted to use some of your improvised music for a film?
I'm all for it.
Oh, you all for okay.
Yeah.
All right, well, that's good.
Just contact me.
To
Just contact me and we'll work out the details.
okay, well, because you have some great music. When I was listening to it, I thought it'd be
Thank
great
you.
music for different movies. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I've had comments
Mhm.
similar to that throughout the years, and
Mhm.
part of my voice, I think, as my voice, it's not your normal voice.
Mhm.
So I've I wouldn't say compensate, but I've put it more into my musical expression.
Mhm.
So it sort of it bleeds into my musical realms from the speech impairments since birth. So so it's sort of the way I talk to most people through my music.
Well, I think that's beautiful. All right, so I have to ask, what are your plans for Arts Earth? It's
So our plans for Arts Earth is to develop more this year. We actually just brought on board a new platform designer, so they will be able to help us go forward this year. We're looking towards going into ticket sales for different events. So it would be an in-house ticketing feature for artists to utilize. We're also working on having the platform be a little bit more specified on which area of interest for navigation purposes so you can navigate the platform easier.
Mhm.
And we're also looking towards more um, outreach worldwide to different countries,
Mhm.
basically more than the US, which is our primary audience now, with a little bit in the European um, community, but we would like to see more engagements within countries, like I said, who either don't fund the arts
Mhm.
or who are adverse to supporting the creative
Mhm.
development of arts within their communities.
Now, would you ever have live performances through Arts
We, so with the pivoting of last year,
Earth? Right.
we've discussed different ways to present some online performances
Mhm.
and also sponsoring some live engagements in person going forward. So we will also be developing that as well.
Would you do any of your improvised performances on that, or would you keep that
So
separate?
we actually used to a couple years ago we actually used to have a monthly series up in San Francisco
Mhm.
that was presented by Arts Earth where we um, featured different music, dance engagements
Mhm.
in local venues up in San Francisco. So we had that series for about 2 years, and then we discontinued that for various reasons. So we're looking forward to picking that up and taking it even forward more. So,
Right. Now, you have a branch in every state in the United States, right?
so basically, um, we are open to opening hubs
Mhm.
in every state in the U.S. and different countries. That's our sort of long term plan, which I had a vision for since the beginning. Basically, they would be sort of art cultural community kiosks,
Mm,
basically in different states and territories and countries, which would help foster the arts geographically in those areas. But with the development of online presence, we would also do online hubs throughout the world also. But that's, like I said, that's more of a
right.
sort of a long horizon development.
Well, it sounds like a wonderful project. I really hope people tune into it. Now, if
Thank you.
they, say they live in Kentucky,
Yeah,
would they find their hub going through artsearth.org? Right.
yes. That's they either could go through artsearth.org if they're, or if they're on Facebook,
Mm,
they they could go to our different groups that feature different private Facebook groups,
mm,
which they're private because it helps on the moderating of who's in the group and what they post, and
right.
that's all part of a wide variety of international venturing,
Wow.
which basically makes it very complicated very quickly. But that's also part of the vision that I have, so we're doing it that way.
Wow. So part of artsearth, will you also be having any type like contests or any type of like scholarships for young people?
Yeah,
Or,
yeah. So we did a couple years ago. We also helped sponsor a summer rock camp for kids
oh, wonderful.
called Summer Rock Camp here in Palo Alto,
Oh,
California, and so we helped sponsor that. So we look forward to doing more of that in the future and possibly having our own kids camp on the horizon as well. But we also primarily need to see how this international pandemic works out through the next couple of years and see what the landscape comes out to be like.
the good thing about, well, if there is such thing as a good thing during a pandemic,
Yeah,
is that people have become more creative. So they are creating more music, more art, more writing. So it's they're going within to create, which
yeah.
is
It's also interesting that you say that because last year was one of our best fundraising years,
oh wonderful.
which is good for us. And this year we're just keeping going up, which is
Good.
good growth for us. But I also think, in a way, 2020 made a lot of people reevaluate their their position within society
Mm,
and their relationship with the arts in general. So
right.
I think people sort of, in sort of a silver lining way, got sort of a good wake up call to what the arts what the arts mean to them
Right.
and how pertinent it is for them in their daily lives,
Right.
especially if they're sheltering in place and can't go out to live concerts. The
Mm,
arts have gotten humans throughout time through a lot of stuff.
right. Yeah.
So,
We need the arts more than ever.
I'm helping that venture
Mhm.
throughout history to hopefully continue that venture throughout human race. So,
I'm so glad you are. So if people want to make a donation, they go
yeah.
to artsearth.org.
So you can go to artsearth.org/donate
Okay.
or just the main page, and there's a donate button on the main page. And so all donations are tax deductible as well. And we also follow it up with your standard thank you letter
Oh,
to the donor or corporate grantee. So, yeah,
you're doing a lot of great things, David. I'm very proud of you.
thank you.
You're being creative inside and out, and you are making wonderful things happen. And I look,
Well, so, so basically, my arts and arts earth are they're they're my life mission while here on earth. So
well, I love that. And
so I'm grateful that I found it through through all the other stuff we all deal with in life.
well, it's so needed. It is so very needed.
Thank you.
And I want to see nothing but success for you and everyone involved with arts or arts organization or artsearth.org. So it's going to be wonderful.
So to get back to my music, I also endorse a couple companies for instruments and different tools. So if you see my background,
Right. I see that. Yeah. What is this?
so this is one of my electric bass. It's a 5-string electric bass from Ned Steinberger
Uh-huh.
and its design company, who I've been endorsing since 2015.
Wow.
So I play their 5-string electric bass, and I also play their 6-string electric cello, which I've been playing that since 2015.
Wow.
And I also endorse this amplifier company called Schurtler Audio, which they're from Switzerland,
Wow.
and they produce different audio gear, including acoustic style amplifiers. So I got turned on to them way back when, and I finally started endorsing them
Mhm.
a few years ago, which I'm thankful for. And I also play with Clayton US guitar picks. So I actually play nowadays. I play with their um both wood, stone, and bone picks, guitar picks. So it just gives a different tone to the string when you play with different materials
Right.
besides the sort of standard plastic pick.
Would you be interested in doing a little improvised music for us right now?
Yes,
I
yeah.
would, we would love that.
Like I can't guarantee you the balance, but I'll give it a
Yeah,
try.
let's do it.
Okay.
This is great.
So this is the bass that's in the background.
Okay. All right. Beautiful. It's a beautiful instrument.
Yeah, it's when I first played it, I was like, wow, this is phenomenal. So let me turn on the
Okay.
amplifier and get set up really quick.
Sounds good. Thank you so much. This is gonna be great. David Leikam performing live on So Zoom In. I love it.
So this will be a purely improvisational piece. So I have no idea what I'm gonna be playing.
Okay, that's the best. That was wonderful. Thank you so much. I could see that in a movie. Just that little bit, I could see in a movie.
So that was just a little ditty I came up with.
It was so great. That was in my mind. I was seeing the story. I was seeing, it's a smoky alleyway, and a young couple coming out of a bar, and it's so for me it became so alive and visual. So see how powerful music is. I love that.
Oh, like I said, I think it's personally, I think it's the truest. But I am somewhat biased, but I think it's the truest form of art.
Just
Because it's sort of, it's the most direct, I think, because it goes directly into your body through your ear.
Right. And so beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that with us, David. And thank you for all the wonderful things you're doing. We look forward to seeing great things happening for you and for artsearth.org. I will definitely post the links on the YouTube, and I look forward to seeing you again very soon, hopefully in person sooner than later.
Yep, definitely.
Thank you so much, David.
Thank you for the invitation again.
Okay, mwah. We'll talk to you soon. Keep playing music. We'll talk to you.
See you soon.